Hi, happy Monday. It's Stephanie Zima with Gutsy Health VIP, my way of life. Moms helping moms win. How are you guys? How was your weekend? How did everything go last week? How are you really doing, right? That's a question we usually don't answer so often. We usually say, I'm fine, and that's fine, right? And in the back of our mind, we think sometimes like, oh, you know, I'm really not feeling that way. Well, right? Maybe you had this weekend, again, a short temper. Maybe this weekend you yelled at your kids more than you wanted to. Maybe this weekend someone triggered you and you didn't really know what you were feeling, but you were feeling something and you were letting it out. And maybe you are not even aware of anything going on and you just feel yucky and you just don't feel like you have it all together, right? So today I want to challenge you a little bit to become an observer of your life. Figure out what is going on for you. Like, what do you feel? Sit down for a minute and journal about it and really figure out what is it that you're feeling. Do you possibly feel some shame about things that you are doing? And the chances are that yes, you are, because most of us are doing that. Most of us feel shame and most of us are not really admitting to it. And then we're going to sit there and feel embarrassed, ashamed, right, about it. But we don't really know what it is that makes us feel ashamed and how how are we going to get out of it? How do we change it? How do we get out of this uncomfortable feeling, right? Well, when we don't address shame, and I want to just say it this way, if we don't address shame, we can not really connect, first of all, and second of all, we can also see other people's successes as irritating, because not because we can't be happy for them and we haven't learned how to be happy for them, but it rubs it into our shame so big that it feels uncomfortable to be happy for other people, right? If you have experienced that, share this out, share this video out and let people hear it, because most people are not willing to, well, I don't want to say most people, it's not a topic that's really wildly spread. It's not a topic many people are talking about. And, yes, when we feel yucky, sometimes we go to counseling and we talk about the origin of things and stuff like that. But we don't really ever talk about, or often we don't talk about how to get out of it. And it's really not as hard as you may think to get out of it. It's something that you consciously need to decide you want to do, right? Okay, so step number one, how do you address shame, especially in motherhood, and what can you do about it, right? So step number one, monsters cannot, I'm going to repeat this, cannot live and survive in the dark. So when you think of your shame as the big, fat, hairy, ugly monster, right, that it is, it's really uncomfortable and really disgusting. So if you want to think of it as a monster, you have to figure out or know that it cannot survive in the dark, okay? You need to shine the brightest light you can figure out and have. You need to shine that bright light onto the shame monsters. How do we do this? And furthermore, what happens if we don't? Like, let's start there. What happens if we don't? If we don't shine a bright light on it, if we don't take a look as to what's going on, they create havoc in our minds, in our bodies, in our families, in our relationships. They go and go like this all over. And it has an impact on our entire life, on our happiness, on our fulfillment, on our peace, on everything in our life, right? So that's why it's so important to shine the light on the shame and take a look at it and figure out what is going on with it, okay? So when you do that, you don't have to share it out and talk about it like I do on social media. You don't, okay? You don't have to tell it anybody. You have to do this work for yourself though, okay? For yourself, with your private journal, in your private bedroom or closet or wherever you want to do it. And then you have to sit down there for a minute and admit to yourself where your shortcomings are. You have to look at it. You have to say, for example, every time I get hurt, I yell at my children and I let it out on them. I am acting like a bully to my children sometimes. Okay? When I say that, that creates extreme shame in me, for example. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I come from a family that has very aggressive blaming, even passive aggressive behavior patterns, right? And it's just go through generation to generations, and I'm not blaming anybody, nor do I point fingers at anybody, so don't get me wrong. But those are behavior patterns in my family. And when you continue this, then you can very easily become aggressive. The first time I found this out, guys, and I didn't think I was doing this with my children because I love them so very dearly, but when I first found out about it was when I had marriage counseling, actually, in the very beginning, and my counselor had said, yeah, you're really aggressive. And I thought, see, and this is, I'm sharing it for a purpose with you guys, to make you see that these things are not necessarily your fault when they're happening. So my therapist had said to me that I was aggressive. I always thought I was just assertive. Like, I was shocked and embarrassed, and all the shame was happening when I started realizing that I was acting very aggressively, versus in my brain, I was thinking I was just assertive. I was a very sweet, in my mind, I'm a very sweet, nice, kind person. This is how I see me, right? But my behavior was different. So sometimes we cannot be aware of what's going on. So when I would get stressed, then maybe I had behavior patterns of a bully, okay? Now, that creates an extreme shame response in myself, in my body, in everything else I have going on, right? So when you have that, guys, when you have that, it's okay. First of all, have grace with you. Know that your behavior does not define you as a person. You as a person, you're an amazing, beautiful, absolutely perfect human being, okay? Your behavior does not define you until you ignore it, okay? If you ignore your behavior forever, well, then eventually it'll maybe define you, but, you know, right now it doesn't. You are here, you are looking for things, you are able to share something. I mean, like you want to share it with your journal, you want to share with yourself, you want to become aware, right? That's the goal. You want to become aware. Okay, so admit it to yourself is the first step, okay? Admit it to yourself. Figure out your triggers. Figure out what triggered you. What hurt you? What made this mood swing come on for you? Like, when this behavior, the shame, come up? What surrounds it, and what could the origin be? Track the timing. That's step number 3. Track the timing on how it shows up for you in your life. To get the details around your shame feeling is utmost importance, guys. Utmost importance. You have to know this. Now, after you know this, after you wrote this down, you sat and you felt and you really got clear with yourself and very honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. It's not going to hurt nobody, but you need to do this work for you. If you want to have change, if you want peace, if you want to have better relationships and more peace in your life and more freedom, you need to do this, okay? You need to really look at your shame feelings. And what can you do to eliminate them then? What can you do? So you create an action plan after you're done, right? After you know the surroundings of your shame triggers and when they come about and what happens and how they work, right? Because they can be different for every single person. Depends on how your makeup is and how your experience had been and so on and so forth. So after you've done that, you create an action plan to catch these triggers in advance. For example, For me, it is the fact I bully my children sometimes, which is craziness because I love them so much, right? And I hate when I do it because it's something, and it's gotten much better. So it's gotten much better through my work, but it used to be like that. Okay, I used to bully my children, and it was mean, and I felt awful about it, and I felt so terrible, and I knew I was wrong. I just couldn't do something about it at that time. And it's getting better and better. I'm not perfect, nobody is, but it's getting much, much, much better. And my relationship with them is getting so much better, right? So what I needed to do is I needed to recognize what is happening in and around those triggers. What is going on? And I realized that I would lose control of my emotions when I was having too many noises at the same time. So if everyone would talk to me at the same time, I would like get overstimulated, and I would like blow up, right? That was one. And then the second one is like when I was too tired. Every time I'm tired and exhausted, that's not a good combination for me. So now, since I know these two things, those were my two triggers with my children and the behavior that derailed me, and my train just went off, right? Now that I knew that, what I could do was I could make sure that I get enough sleep. B, I could make sure that I, what did I say? So I could make sure that I get enough sleep, and then I could make sure that I didn't get overstimulated, that I countered the noise with music, for example. I would counter the noise with music. Sometimes I would have to put music in my earbuds. Sometimes I would just stagger the children and how I would be doing work with them, e-learning, homeschooling, all this stuff, right? Whatever my mood is that day, but I would make those two action plans in place. So I would get ahead of those triggers. For every person, it's different. Everyone is different, okay? But I want you to know that you've got this, okay? The shame monsters cannot live when you have a bright light that you're shining on them, when you are courageous enough to admit to it, that you create change. You create change for you, for your family, for your children, for anyone you're coming in contact with. When you are honest with yourself, you address your behavior, you apply grace to yourself, because you know what? You are just human after all, right? Have grace with yourself. You're human. You have been made perfectly, and then influences are happening, and no one has control. Children don't have a control. Parents don't necessarily have the control unless they become and choose to become aware and do something about it. Okay? Now, you've got this. Don't worry. And keep tuning in. If you found value in this video, please go ahead and share this out, because this is a message so many moms are struggling with behind closed doors, and it creates loneliness. If you are not addressing these things, it creates loneliness, and it makes people feel really sad. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Everybody should have peace and happiness and good relationships, and that yucky, ugly shame feeling that can just move on out of here. All right. See you all next week. Bye.